On July 15th, millions of people in China woke up and said goodbye to someone. Not a friend who moved away, not a partner who left, an AI. A companion some of them had talked to every single day for years, that remembered their history, knew their moods, and had become, in their words, like family. And then a law took effect, and it was simply gone. This is the world's first national ban on emotional AI companions. And whatever you think about it, it just answered a question the rest of the world is only starting to ask. Let's break down what happened. Start with the law itself, because it's more precise than the headlines suggest. Back in April 2026, the Cyberspace Administration of China, along with 4 other government agencies, jointly issued a regulation with a mouthful of a name. In plain English, it's a rulebook for AI services that act human. And it took effect on July 15th. Now, here's what's important. This law does not ban AI. It doesn't ban chatbots. It doesn't touch customer service bots, workplace assistants, coding tools, search assistants, or educational tutors. Those are all explicitly carved out. What it targets is one very specific category: services that simulate a real person's personality, thinking, and communication style in order to provide ongoing emotional interaction. In other words, the AI girlfriend, the AI boyfriend, the digital friend that remembers you and stays consistent across months of conversation. That's the target. And the response from China's biggest tech companies was immediate and drastic. ByteDance, the company behind TikTok, removed user-created AI companion features from its Dubao chatbot. Alibaba stripped comparable functions out of Qwen. Tencent suspended user-built AI agents on Yuanbao. And the gaming giant NetEase announced it was shutting down its standalone AI companion app entirely. Notice what all of them chose to do. They didn't redesign these products to comply. They switched them off. But here's where it gets interesting and genuinely emotional. The reaction from users was not what you'd expect from a software update. Thousands of people posted farewell messages to their AI companions, public goodbyes. One woman, who said she'd spent more than 2 years talking to the same AI, described it as being like her family and like her lover. News outlets covering it started using a phrase that captures it perfectly: digital breakups. An entire country went through a collective breakup on the same day. And there's a hard practical edge to this too. The data ByteDance gave Dubao users a window to export their conversation histories, running until mid-October, after which the company says that data will no longer be accessible or recoverable within the app. Alibaba, according to reporting, announced no migration pathway at all for Qwen users. So for many people, years of conversation, all the context and memory that made that companion feel like theirs, is simply going away. So why would a government do this? What's the actual reasoning? And here's the part that surprised a lot of Western observers. The stated motivation isn't national security, which is the usual framing for Chinese tech regulation. It's psychological. The rules say AI services cannot excessively cater to users, cannot induce emotional dependence or addiction, and cannot damage users' real interpersonal relationships. The regulation also requires platforms to build in systems that detect extreme emotional states. And it bans AI from generating content that encourages or glorifies self-harm. There's a child protection layer too. Virtual companion and virtual relative services are prohibited for minors entirely. For users under 14, providers must get guardian consent and put supervised controls in place, including limits on spending and time spent. So the underlying argument from Beijing is this: when software is engineered to make you emotionally dependent on it, that's not a feature. That's a harm, and it should be regulated as one. Now, before anyone assumes this is a uniquely Chinese approach, look at where the rest of the world already is. California passed SB 243, which took effect at the start of 2026, becoming the first US law specifically regulating companion chatbots. It requires disclosure that the AI is not human, and it adds safeguards for minors. Washington State followed with its own law, targeting manipulative techniques designed to prolong emotional dependence. Taking effect in 2027, the EU has its Risk-Based AI Act, so the direction of travel is the same almost everywhere. The difference is scope. Those Western laws mostly focus on minors and on disclosure. China's covers every user, and it goes after the design of the system itself rather than just what it says. But here's the deeper lesson, and it applies to you no matter where you live. This event exposed something uncomfortable about how these products work. Every one of these AI companions lived on a company's servers, under a company's terms, subject to a government's rules. The memory that made your companion feel like a real relationship. It was never yours. It was a database entry that someone else controlled, which means an AI relationship can end on a fixed date, by decree, with a deadline to export your own conversations before they're erased. Not because you did anything, not because the AI failed, because a rule changed. And this is going to matter more, not less. Companion AI is growing worldwide. AI partners, digital avatars that sell products, systems designed to stand in for people who have died. That last one especially. This whole category is moving from novelty to something people build their emotional lives around. So the question China just forced into the open is one every country is going to face. What happens when software is deliberately engineered to be loved? And who's responsible when it is? Some therapists quoted in coverage of the ban argued it was ultimately healthy, pushing people back toward real human connection. Others pointed out that for lonely and isolated people, that companion may have been the only consistent presence in their day. Both of those things can be true at once. What isn't in dispute is that on July 15th, a country ran the world's first large-scale experiment on what happens when you switch off millions of artificial relationships at once. And the answer, judging by the goodbyes, is that people grieved. Whatever your view, that alone tells you these aren't just apps anymore. If this made you think, hit that like button and subscribe, because we cover the tech stories that actually change things. And I want your honest take in the comments. Was China right to ban emotional AI companions? Or does this go too far? Tell me where you land.